There are so many people at my gym right now, so I'm sitting in the car trying to kill some time. Figured I would film this video and see if by the time I'm done, if maybe the rush has cleared out. I don't know if it's normal or not to talk about your financial situation when you go to therapy. I imagine that a therapist would probably be willing to talk to someone about their money situation if they brought it up, but I myself have never had a therapist ask me about my financial situation. And a lot of people may or may not consider that in the full picture. Like, I could see a lot of ways in which money can solve people's issues. But generally, whenever we kind of acknowledge, like, I'm going through a lot, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling depressed, I don't know that many of us would consider some of the practical steps that you could take through personal finance as a means of, like, the holistic sense of how you go about treatment. So what I mean by this is there's, like, clinical stuff, like clinical anxiety, clinical depression, and then there's other stuff that it's like I don't know what you would call it. It's not exactly clinical, but more like practical. Maybe if someone is like clinically depressed, it might be like a chemical thing or like a hormone thing. May primarily need to be addressed with medication. But then there's other types of depression where it's just because you're not happy with something. You know deep down that something in your life is missing, even if you're not quite sure what that is. Like, you're not able to make yourself do something that you want to do, or you struggle with motivation. It could be all kinds of things. There's a level of anxiety that somebody can have where you need professional intervention, medical intervention, but sometimes anxiety is just trying to tell us that something's wrong. It's trying to get our attention so that we change what's happening and actually take action on something. And it's kind of cool because, from an evolutionary standpoint, it's this beautiful mechanism that we have where our body, like, even if our conscious mind isn't aware of a threat, on some level our subconscious mind is screaming out to do something, to change something. Over the past few years, personally, I've done a lot of work to practically make my life better, and I've gone to therapy, and like I said, I'm at the gym right now. So I've been going to the gym consistently for like almost 2 years now, and that's made a big difference in my life. But looking back, one of the first baby steps that I took that I think really changed the trajectory of the mindset that I'm in was building up an emergency fund for the first time. There's debate on the best ways to go about this, because if you look up advice for it, there's a million ways you could do it. For instance, people like to make fun of Dave Ramsey because he's an old guy, and for the past 20 or 30 years he's been telling people that step one is to save $1,000 for their emergency fund. And you wouldn't be wrong if you pointed out that $1,000 doesn't seem like it's enough to get you out of many emergencies. $1,000 might replace a water heater or put new tires on your car. If you have like a big E emergency, $1,000 will put a dent in it, but then you won't have anything left. So clearly you need more than $1,000. But from what I've heard, though, from like, and I'm not really like a Ramsey person, but I'm kind of aware of some of the different philosophies that people have. The whole point of the $1,000 Ramsey benchmark is more so like a psychological, like a habit builder type of thing, because they don't expect you to stop at $1,000. They know that you'll need more than $1,000 to get out of an emergency. But a lot of people don't even have $1,000 for an emergency fund. So to even get that in the first place is a win. The idea is, if you can reach that benchmark, ideally you would be able to save more. And that you do definitely need to have more in emergency fund than that, especially if you have children. In case I haven't said it plainly, my thesis here is you need to consider your personal finances as part of your treatment for your mental health. So, on the anxiety side of things, it will drastically decrease your risk in your day-to-day life because you'll have an emergency fund. And on the depression side of things, an emergency fund is proof that you can make meaningful progress over time. And the thing about a depressed mind is that they're rigid. You want to think that things that could be possible either are or are not possible. And I'm not going to go on with more and more examples, but the point being that whenever you have the filter over a depressed mind, it makes it really difficult to see the path. And that is why it's really important to reach out for help, because digging your way out of depression has nothing to do with how strong you are or strong-willed that you are. Because you can take a really strong-willed person, and if you make them hopeless enough, it doesn't even matter. If you make someone a doomer, truly, they won't see the point in anything, especially hard stuff. Like, if something's difficult and you're hopeless, like, why would you do that? The whole point of an emergency fund is peace of mind, which is the antithesis to anxiety. We can't control all of life's risks, but having an emergency fund can save you from a ton of stress and prevent you from going into debt when shit hits the fan. I'll say for myself, when I first bought my house, which I was lucky, we won't even get into that today. I can't even believe that was possible. But when I did it with a first-time homeowner's loan. I forget what it's called exactly, but essentially it allowed me to purchase my home and get approved for a mortgage without needing to have a down payment. So that was a huge deal for me because I didn't really have much savings at all. It took me a while to realize, having an emergency fund is even more important the more responsibility you take on. The more things that you own, the more things need to be maintained, the more things there are that could possibly go wrong. And even if you're not thinking about it at the front of your mind, you might find that you're feeling a little more anxious each day that goes by, and you're not entirely sure why that is. But it might just be because your subconscious mind knows that there's a lot riding on you, and if you know subconsciously you don't have an emergency fund, you don't have anything to fall back on, consciously aware of it or not, on some level, it's gonna stress you out, because if one of these things get pulled, the whole house of cards could come tumbling down. And it makes it really hard to just, get a good night's sleep and enjoy your life whenever you know that you're one bad thing away from a bad situation turning into a terrible one. If you're lucky, you can build up an emergency fund one time and only occasionally have to dip into it. And the idea is that you would dip into it as needed, and then you would replenish it, and that it would sit there, and its whole job is to just give you peace of mind, and that would reduce your anxiety to some degree. Doing that isn't going to take it away, but it's going to open up bandwidth for you. And that's kind of the point that I want to make here. Anything that you can do practically that is going to increase your bandwidth, you can use that bandwidth to put toward the harder, more complicated issues that you have going on. You're going to need as much bandwidth as you can get to allow yourself to work through some of your deeper mental health struggles that you might be dealing with. And on the depression front, so there's this concept that I'm pretty sure I learned about from Dr. K's content, if you know who that is. I remember him talking about how, someone had asked him on stream, what do you do whenever you feel like your life doesn't belong to you? I wake up, I go to either school or work, and then I come home and I have to do all these chores, and I have to just, I spend so much time and energy maintaining my own life, and I feel like what I want to do, there's, so much of my life is spent just maintaining. Is this all life is just doing dishes and doing laundry and going to work and paying my bills? And in a way, yes, but also it's not at all. This is the difference between active challenges and passive challenges. A passive challenge is like if you get a flat tire, or if there's like family drama going on, or if you get called for jury duty. You don't really want to deal with any of those things. Or if you don't like your job, like you don't want to wake up and go to your job, but you have to. None of us can escape these things. We can try to, but you might find that they stack up significantly and your life becomes even more miserable the more you try to ignore these things. But then on the other end are active challenges. So whenever you choose to do hard stuff, like go to the gym, or save money, or train for a 5K, or learn how to do pottery, or write a novel, anything you can think of that is not easy. You might have to acquire a new skill. I could go on all day. There's all kinds of active challenges. There's all kinds of active challenges you could do. It's basically just a side quest. It's you deciding this is a totally optional quest that I want to go on. I want to get into woodworking or leather crafting. There's this phenomenon where whenever you're really depressed and burnt out, you feel like, God, I wish I could just take something off of my plate. And that could be true. Maybe you do have way too much going on and you need to reach out for support and help from somebody. But sometimes what we need is not less passive challenges, we need more active challenges. So a lot of times what happens with people that get burnt out is they're just tending to obligations all day long. They move from one task to the next that's obligatory. And that isn't very fun, because even if you feel some amount of responsibility and duty to those things, it's not something that's going to invigorate you, even if it is rewarding, you know? Like, if you got a flat tire, and no matter how you went about fixing it, if you fixed it yourself, if you called AAA, if you got a tow truck, whatever happened, you got, like, problem solved, you dealt with the problem, but then that's just like, it's a relief. It's when it's over with, you feel relieved. When you clock out of work, you feel relieved. But whenever you accomplish an active challenge, you don't feel relieved, you feel proud. It can be really easy to mix those things up and think like, I spend all the time facing challenges. What do you mean? I'm challenged every day. But you're not engaging in the kinds of challenges that make you stoked or like proud of yourself. You don't feel this intense sense of accomplishment. You just feel relieved that you got it over with. If that resonates with you, I think that if it resonates with you and you don't have an emergency fund, that's a great place to start. Because for me personally, when it comes to progression in anything, I can very easily trick myself into thinking that I've made no progress. Like with the gym, if I didn't track what I'm capable of doing, if I didn't track all of my workouts to compare my strength, I did it by just, like, if I tracked my progress by just looking at my body, it would be very, very easy to convince myself that I've basically done nothing, because I don't look drastically different. But I know that I've had a little bit of recomp, and I know that my cardio's gotten better. So undeniably, I know, only because I've tracked it. Like, I can look back and go, oh, like, I've gotten undeniably stronger. I've gotten better endurance. I can point to all of this information that is evidence that I've made progress. And yeah, like, I don't think that having an emergency fund is going to magically dissolve your mental health issues. I still think you should go to therapy or take your meds or whatever it is that you think you need to be doing. But I do encourage you to take stock of your situation. If you don't have an emergency fund, start there. You need to have hope that you do have a future and that you're headed somewhere and that you're worth taking care of. Do some of these basic things that really kind of prove to yourself that you're capable of doing, like, you're capable of taking on a challenge like that, it's a form of delayed gratification, because it won't just happen immediately. And when you have it, I think you'll find that you'll get a ton of peace of mind from it. I just know that personally there's been no like groundbreaking like moment for me that's been like, this is the thing that's unlocked my mental health situation. But I do think that some of those little steps that are trackable, tangible, practical practical things, that's the stuff that's how you prove to yourself that you are capable. Sometimes we just need to be reminded that we're capable. And a car just pulled up next to me. I don't know if they can tell I'm filming. I'm trying to be less self-conscious about stuff like this, so maybe they'll think I'm just sitting in here doing a Bible study or a FaceTime or something. What else do I have in here? I don't know. I'll end it there.